Hey everyone, Meteorologist Tuttle back with you again. It is about time to start covering for tornadoes in and around Oklahoma. Had a couple of tornado warnings up around the Panhandle area of Oklahoma that moved into west of Woodward, dissipated. The tornado warning itself replaced by a severe. And we had a storm down in southwest Oklahoma now have a tornado warning on it. So we're going to go ahead and start to cover the live broadcast. So it might be on and off this evening. We'll kind of see how it goes. We'll see how these storms behave or not. So make sure you share this video with your friends and family that may be in southwest Oklahoma or northwest Oklahoma or even central, as these storms will work their way in to our area during the latter part of this evening. So if you remember what happened on Thursday, we have kind of a similar outcome coming up for tonight, albeit maybe a couple of hours delayed versus last night, but still, needless to say, it'll be a wind and hail event with potential for tornado, at least for the next hour probably or so. Okay, so make sure I got everything up and running on my end of things. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Let's do. First thing I'm going to do is a statewide picture. So let me get that up and running. Let's see here. Okay. All right.
All clear.
So this is
There are no
the
storms in your area of interest.
for northwest Oklahoma.
Severe hail detected.
All these little orange boxes are all severe thunderstorm warnings. So in other words, there's no red boxes, no red polygons, indicating no tornado warnings at this point in time. Some straight line winds, though. We'll talk about that in a second. And then down here, these little boxes are also mostly orange for severe, but we do have that one red box, which is for the tornado warning. Now that's it for the whole state. So we're going to watch this cluster move east down in southern Oklahoma, and we're going to watch this cluster in northwest Oklahoma move to the east across the northern half of the state. Now the question, of course, is will it impact Oklahoma City? So we'll look at that as well in some of the latest data. So first thing we're going to do is jump down here to southwest Oklahoma. This is around the Walters, Temple, Ranlet area. So this particular storm is moving to the east at about 38 miles per hour, has hail size up to around 1.5 inch in diameter, so just about golf ball size. And the wording on this from the National Weather Service as far as the warning is concerned, let's see, it was issued at 8:32, so about 10 minutes or so ago. Let's see, a storm capable of producing a tornado was located near Cookietown, moving east at 40. Also ping pong ball size hail possible. Walters, Temple, and Cookietown are the communities involved with this particular storm. And also includes Interstate 44 between mile markers 11 and 22. So that is the latest on the warning. This is down here in southwest Oklahoma. Now, when we look at the velocity data, which is what I'm looking at on the radar. So in other words, I'll go back over. This is the reflectivity, which just shows all the heavy rain, right? So we're going to try to find is there a tornado in this for one, and then locate that for you for two. All right, so we'll put this into motion. So you can see over time, there really wasn't a tight couplet. Now at one point, right here, you may have seen this guy right there. It looked like it was trying to do something right there. It came close, and that's hence the warning came out for it. But it looks like it never quite wrapped up. So that's good news. So the storm is struggling to produce the tornado, but because it's in an area that it could happen, the warning will remain in place. Probably about, like I said, another 20 or 30 minutes at most, unless it gets canceled. And then we'll kind of see downstream about how this thunderstorm behaves. So again, that's down here in southwest Oklahoma. So if you're watching these other storms down here near or across the Red River, nothing too fancy with those. This one probably has a little bit of a hook echo trying to get going on it down south of Electra, but just a severe thunderstorm warning on it for now. And then back up here in central Oklahoma, again, nothing happening here across the greater Oklahoma City metro area for now. We're going to look at the model data here in just a second to see how that goes. And then let's zip on up here to northwest Oklahoma. We'll take a look at these storms in more detail, and we'll see if there's any circulation features left over for this one that's up around Freedom. Now already the look to it has a bow echo structure to it, all right? So that typically means straight line winds with less of a tornado threat. Now sometimes you get on the leading edge, like a little QLCS type tornado, but as far as a supercell type creation of one, that's usually doesn't happen in this particular formation. But let's see what the winds look like. coming out of this. It should be straight line winds that should be pretty strong with that pattern. Now the radar's going to have some trouble, looks like, on the data. Here we go. Let's go to these guys. So it does say a measurement's up around 90 miles per hour. Let's see, that's going to be up around 6,000 feet. So if you remember last night, we had 90 mile per hour winds, or even higher, sometimes up around 6,000 feet. And when that did happen, the surface measurement wasn't quite that strong. So you do have to subtract a little bit for friction in the atmosphere. So sometimes not all these stronger winds do make their way down, but the potential does exist. Therefore, the severe thunderstorm warnings do have that type of a wording in them. Matter of fact, we can take a look at this latest warning up here. Again, this is not a tornado type situation right now. It's a damaging straight line wind event. So max wind gust right now, estimated at the surface, would be up around 70 miles per hour. Let's see here. This is all, again, these counties up here in northwest Oklahoma. So Woods, Alfalfa, Blaine, Dewey, Major, and Woodward counties. Let's see here. So they got storms along a line extending from 10 miles southwest of Atna to 7 miles southeast of Alabaster and Cabin State Park to near Sestos, moving east at 60s. He's moving quite a bit faster than the ones down south. 70 mile per hour winds and $half size hail. So again, that's the threat with these. Remember, these are the ones that earlier had tornado warnings when they were out here in the Panhandle area during the early part of our evening and afternoon. Once they got into this realm, the tornado warning continued, but then it was eventually canceled. The circulation kind of weakened, so it just kind of ended up being more of a typical thunderstorm with some straight line winds and some hail. All right, so again, there's a cluster up here with a lot of lightning with it. So there you go. So that's the two areas that we're going to be focused on here for this evening. All right, so let me go down here and interrogate this one a little bit better. Southwest Oklahoma, 38% probability of a tornado, which is not all that high, but we'll look for the number to change in order. Does it ramp up or does it come down, etc.? The look of the storm is pretty messy. Doesn't have very good structure, seems to have collapsed a little bit. Matter of fact, the tornado warning that was on it when we started this broadcast, that was issued not long ago. Normally, they'll just let them go. The Weather Service won't cancel a tornado warning. Thursday night they did not, but this time around they did. They actually canceled it. So there is no circulation with it. We showed that a minute ago on the other radar viewpoint. We'll do it here on this one as well. So what you want to focus on is this guy right here. That's your area of interest. All right, so you're going to watch this circle travel kind of in this fashion, and you're going to watch that area of interest to see what happens. See, it never really got those tight couplet of blue and green toward one another. So Weather Service, rightly so, canceled that one for now. So until this configuration changes, it's going to be hard to produce a tornado anytime soon. So that's the good news there. So the storm kind of fell apart. And that's why I said when I started this broadcast, I may be kind of on and off this evening, just kind of watching things versus being on the whole time, waiting for something to happen. It's a little different than it was on Thursday night. We have a little less, we already had a problem Thursday night of significant deep moisture in place. The dew point depression was a little too big at the lower levels, below 1,000 kilometers, to get tornadoes. It was very difficult. They could do it, but they wouldn't last very long. This time around, we even have a little bit, probably even more dry air sneaking in there. So shear's pretty decent, so it'll still be another battle. It won't be easy for them. Winds in here, though, in this blue area, it's up around 70 miles per hour coming in toward the west side of Walters. So kind of like last night, or Thursday night. I quit saying last night. Thursday night, there will have some winds within these. So let's go take a look at those down here, and I'll measure these for you on the screen. So these storms are expected to kind of hug the southern counties here in Oklahoma, so they will not make their way up to the north into the Oklahoma City metro. So if you're kind of wondering about that, right now that's the way things look. Let's see here. Yeah, I don't even, man, on this side of the winds, these are not impressive at all. 35. Interesting. Let me go back over here for a minute.
Severe hail detected.
It's up around 1,900 feet. All right, so these little blue areas on this particular map is up around 60 miles per hour, but it's up around 2,000 feet elevation, roughly. So we'll see if some of that does mix down to the surface, but that's on the back side of the storm. So probably not. You need a downdraft to kind of bring it in. So we'll see if that does anything soon. So these were the little spots I was looking at on the other map. So there's Geronimo, like I said, up around close to 60, and then down here 60, 65, near 70. But they'll need a downdraft to pull them into the surface, so it probably won't happen for right now. But that's potentially kind of hanging up aloft. Okay, so that's what's happening right now in southwest Oklahoma. This one down here in northwest Texas, coming into Wichita Falls. See if there's anything with that other than the typical hail and wind. Let's see, nothing on that panel or on that panel. Okay. All right, so we've got that covered. Let me look at Northwest one more time, and then we'll look at some computer model data for this evening to see what the latest trend on this stuff is going to be. I know you guys are getting a pretty good storm here in Woods County around Freedom and Southward. Lots of lightning associated with this. Well, those looks like those winds are folded over. Let's see here. All right. Radar is having a tough time with the color tables to get the proper amount of winds. Let me look at a different view. See if this one will tell me something a little better. And then we'll look at data. So again, nothing tornadic up here at this point. This should just be a straight line wind event. All right, so what kind of winds we got? There's 78, 81, 81, 73, 82. So some good wind out of this particular thunderstorm. This is that damaging wind type deal. Again, I don't see any rotation areas, which is good. Right, so what we're going to do is we'll track this little edge here. Now we said the movement on this was moving quite a bit faster. I believe we said closer to 60 if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So we'll track this little line. So this is the leading edge of this damaging wind line, moving east at about 60. So this is the timeline of Winoka. Here's a couple minutes. Alva, Tacoma, Carmen between now and 9:23. Aleen, Burlington 9:24. Cherokee 9:27. Byron at 9:31. And all the way down to Waukita by 9:52. So basically, if you live in northern Oklahoma, this damaging wind line will be working its way toward your area. And it has pockets, as we said, up around 80. There's 85. This little blue spot here is quite a bit higher, about 90. Let me clear this, and let's take a look at that in a little bit more detail. So up around 90, 93. Let me take a look at the altitude. 3,200 feet. So again, you're not going to get 90 at the surface of this. 75, 80, those is certainly doable. This particular little pocket of wind on, let's see, is on Jackson Road, it looked like. Between Jackson Road and Jefferson Road along, this is parallels Highway 64, just east side of County Road 270, and then coming up on County Road 300. So that's the most stout damaging wind component of this particular line here in northern Oklahoma. But this whole line is seeing winds up around 60 for sure. You're going to have little pockets here in these little darker blue areas up 70. And like I said, this little one here may get around 80 miles per hour. So that can do, pretty substantial damage, straight line winds, peels off some roofs, that kind of deal. Okay, so that's what's happening up here. Let's take another view. So let's see here. On this panel, it flipped over a little bit better. This was near to Garden. So that's where all this little blue area is. This is the hot spot I was talking about, where you've got winds approaching 95 miles per hour at, like I said, about 3,000 feet elevation. So let's get some at the wind and at the surface, obviously, and you've got a problem. So let's see what is at the surface out here, right? That's our next little order. Looks like a lot of farmland. Looks like a couple little houses out here. Otherwise, we got lots of tributaries, creeks, streams. Let's see here. So it's not obviously very densely populated, which is only the good news whenever you have these kind of situations where you have pretty strong winds or damaging hail or even tornadoes in some cases. So the least dense, the least populated areas are always going to be the best. Of course, nobody wants to get the tornado as it is, but in Oklahoma, we have a lot of space. Okay, so of that particular line, we'll watch for this northern fringe right in here. We'll see if we can't get something to spin up on this northern end of this little bulge. I'm looking at this reflectivity structure coming in right here. So I'm looking for something to wrap up at the corner and move in, kind of like in this fashion. So that would be this little spot right here, and then kind of rotating back. So we're going to see if we get a little tornado out of this because of the increase in shear here. So that might happen in the next few minutes. Otherwise, again, this is a straight line wind deal. So let's go back here to this map here, get an estimate on these wind speeds. So 86, 85, 88, 90. So still up around 90. These down here, 78, 84, 70, 70. All right, this is up here in northwest Oklahoma. Not a tornado warning, just a severe thunderstorm warning with some straight line winds. So you're going to get 70 mile per hour winds easy with some pockets of, like we said, these little hot spots, probably a little bit more than that. All right. Let me check back southwest Oklahoma again real quick. This guy down here, still a hot mess of garbage. So we'll occasionally come back to it. Meanwhile, again, northwest Oklahoma is the strongest storm right now of the state. All right, tell you what, let's do this while we're going to see what happens with that circulation feature. Just so you know, we do have a severe thunderstorm watch that encompasses pretty much the rest of Oklahoma. That's to the east of the tornado watch. So it does include the Oklahoma City metro area and points eastward. This watch goes until 2 o'clock in the morning. Scattered damaging winds, isolated significant gusts up to around 90 miles per hour likely. Scattered large hail and isolated very large hail events up to 3 inches in diameter. And a tornado or two possible. So does that not sound familiar to you from Thursday? Because that's kind of a repeat. All right, so that's the latest from the Storm Prediction Center. Let me see if they have any discussions out. All right, so for this one here in northern Oklahoma, let's see. Wind damage, large hail, tornado threat continue this evening. Let's see here. All right, let's see. A threat for wind damage, large hail, tornadoes will continue over the next few hours from southern Kansas into central and northern Oklahoma. Significant hail and wind gusts over 70 knots will be possible. New watch will be needed, which they did issue. The latest high-resolution radar imagery from the radar shows a fast-moving MCS over southwest Kansas extending southward into the Texas Panhandle. Several supercells and short Boeing-like segments are embedded within this. Cluster storms moving east at 50 knots. Significant wind damage with wind gusts greater than 70 knots and hailstones greater than 2 inches in diameter will be possible to stronger, more intense part of the line. Tornadoes will also be possible at parts of the line that exhibit rotation, along with discrete supercells that persist ahead of the line. All right, so that was the latest from the Storm Prediction Center for northwest and northern Oklahoma. And then southern Oklahoma, probably similar wording down here along the Red River. Let's see, that's going to continue over the next few hours. Latest imagery shows storms continue. Let's see, blah, blah, blah. Lift has been increasingly favorable for convective development with better organization. Low-level flow will steadily increase across Red River as well. Therefore, these factors should result in a gradual increase in convective coverage as the MCS organizes and moves eastward across south-central Oklahoma and north Texas. Stronger cells as cluster will have a potential for very large hail and damaging wind. Severe threat will increase steadily, meaning we'll need a severe weather watch, which they did issue. All right, so that's the latest from those from that entity on those two areas. Let's see what the high-resolution model does. All right, so the HRRR, let me see if it's got a newer run. It does. We'll look at this one first. This brought this cluster down in south and keeps it down in southern Oklahoma for the 9 and 10 o'clock hour. It does pop some stuff up here. Did you notice that here in central Oklahoma about 10 o'clock around the metro area? Otherwise, this cluster keeps going there, and we have this cluster out here to the west and northwest. It has that one coming through Oklahoma City around 11 to midnight, but falling apart, probably because it runs into somewhat stable air created from these storms down north south. But it does keep storms going, though, up through about 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, and then it has a lot more after that. Southern Oklahoma overnight, 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, with a lot of little helicity tracks down here, indicative of hail and wind damage potential. Okay, so let's do this. That was the newer run is just coming in. We'll see if it's similar. Just about. So again, it has Oklahoma City right here at 11 p.m. So this line moving into the western sides of the metro from 11 p.m. through midnight. And it does kind of keep most of the action, along I-44 corridor, splitting I-40. So it doesn't have a whole lot in the southern half of the metro. And it has that other cluster in southern Oklahoma, continues to move into Arkansas. And then later, at 1 in the morning, it does have more storms there. And a secondary round coming in from 2 to 3 here. So it looks like it's going to be a long night, basically, in Oklahoma City. Let me see what it does with the wind gust potential within these lines. Okay, so you see all these little brown areas. So this indicates wind speeds up around 90 miles per hour. This one right here also close to 80. These guys down here, let's see, they're 70 plus, and there's some around 70. This guy here, 70 plus. So you see these little brown spots on the map that's usually excess of 70 miles per hour. And you notice there's kind of hit and miss along these line components in both of these clusters. So Tulsa, example, there's between midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning, you get some of those winds that'll blow through you, and that heads on into Missouri, northeast Oklahoma, and northwest Arkansas, with wind speeds still up around 90 miles an hour for potential wind gusts. So that's the latest look at the high-resolution data as to how things will evolve or should evolve this evening. All right, so back in southwest Oklahoma, see what this one's doing again. Still disorganized. It's got little pockets, some blue in here. So again, that's around 60 miles per hour. So your standard, typical thunderstorm here. Hail size, 1.5 inches. Nothing out of the ordinary. This is what we normally get in the spring, early summer. So it'll be loud, a lot of lightning, but not a big deal. All right, let's go to northwest Oklahoma. Okay, So this one is east of Woodward and south of Woodward as well. All right, so this, the strongest line with all the lightning, east of Freedom now between you guys and Alva, coming up on Avard and Waynoka in Woods County. All right, now the little blue, or I should say darker blue area has expanded. And all this in here is around 90 miles per hour coming into Avard and Alva. All right, now that is 2,700 feet. So we've dropped about 300 feet elevation. Now, what does that translate to at the surface? Let's see, Freedom, wind gusts, and ceiling wind gusts up around 76 miles per hour. All right, so when this line was going through Freedom, I got him. I didn't have my chopsticks, but I got him. That's a Karate Kid reference. But anyway, flies been flying back and forth and bother me. All right, let's see. So where was I? Oh yeah, so it was going through Freedom. It did hit this little mesonet station out here, and it did have a wind gust up around 77 miles per hour. Let's go take a look. Mesonet. All right, so wind speed, gusts, and barbs. All right, so there's a wind gust here in ceiling, 76. And then the Freedom one, here's Freedom. That's a gust of 51. Let's see, what did the Weather Service say? It said it went to 77. Let's take a look. It didn't show on that graph. Here we go. This little, oh, you can't see it. Let's go. There we go. I had to move my image way over here for you. All right, this right here. That right there is a 77 mile per hour wind gust. All right, 77.2 to be exact. Okay, so we were looking at wind speeds on radar at that time that were between 70 and 80, but that was around 3,000 feet. Actually, a lot of that made its way to the surface. So that's kind of our barometer going forward about how we'll gauge how well a probability that those winds around 90 can reach the surface, and that's telling me that's pretty good. We're not going to lose a whole lot on frictional forces. So we're probably going to be at least 80 miles per hour at a minimum in those really hard hit areas. So let's take a look here. So Avard, again, those winds are blowing through you at this moment. All right, so there's 85, 91, 88, 86. Again, coming on the west side up around 90. This whole area, which is bounded between Highway 64 and 45, east of 14 and west of 281. So that's this block. This is your big block of wind up to around 90 miles an hour. And then we have the secondary batch here, the northern comma head shape of this. That's also up around 88, 86, 89, 90. So this is your big area of wind as well. That'll be coming into Hardner and Capron, or Capron, I can't remember how you pronounce that one, as well in Kiowa and Burlington. So that's your other pocket of wind coming in. Now the wind is so strong that the algorithm has tripped right here a TVS, which stands for Tornado Vortex Signature, right? So basically what that means is there's a lot of rotation on the comma head of this bowing segment. So a lot of times you'll get a little mini area of low pressure on the northern fringe of this, as your bow structure kind of comes out from this, and so you get your strong straight line winds here, but you also get this rotation factor here. Now, typically it doesn't produce a tornado, but it can, as long as it's surface-based and not mid-level based. But right now this is mid-level based. So we'll see what happens. The surface, like I mentioned earlier, we'll see if something occurs in this area for a quick rotational spin-up. If so, you would watch these red colors increase in brightness, and they'd be co-located with the greens, what we call a gate-to-gate shear marker. Once that happens, then we've got a brief tornado. So that would be the area to watch for. And this is around Osage Road and County Road 380. So about 6 miles west-southwest of Hardner. Okay, so anyway, so that's what's going up there. So basically, strong straight line winds this time. So nothing tornadic at this point. But that'll be coming into Cherokee, Anthony, Nash, Pond Creek, Manchester, etc. So what we could do, let me look at the movement on this real quick. All right, so we're going to do another manual track here. Oops, I want that off of there. So as your communities involved, let's see, was it 9:15? So Capper 9:18, Kiowa 9:26, Burlington 9:27, Byron 9:35, Manchester 9:50, Medford at 10:06. So that's the approximate time of arrival for these strong straight line winds to hit you up here in northern Oklahoma. All right, let me close that. So that's our big story up here to the northern part of the state. These guys down here, pockets of wind within these, like that ceiling mesonet. I think that was the other one that took a wind gust up around 70 miles per hour. So what happens is, unfortunately, the radar's located here, and the terrain is really bad looking down in this direction. So we get a lot of missing data in this area of the state as a result in the lowest scans. So we can't sometimes see what the winds are doing down low because of the limitations of the earth. There's always something you got to work around. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for tuning in tonight on YouTube, Rumble, and Facebook for this severe weather coverage. Just curious, if I go up in elevation a little bit, how strong these winds are. At 4,000 feet, they are, let's turn that off, 98, 100 miles per hour. Man. All right, so 100 mile per hour winds at 4,000 feet elevation. Is that what we said? Go right here. Yeah, 4,700 feet. Okay, now if I go scan down below that one, we're still up at 100 miles an hour. And that is at 3,400 feet. We didn't lose any wind speeds. Okay, but then once we go down our lowest value, which would take us to 2,000 feet. So from 3,500 to 2,000 feet, 1,500 difference. We lost about 15 miles per hour in the speed. So we'll probably still lose possibly another 5 to maybe 10 at most coming down the surface. So that still puts us around 75 to about maybe 80 miles per hour here around the town of Alva and point south on 281 and this other spot up here west of 281 and 11. All right, I'm going to take a quick tour down south again. You guys in Duncan. Let's see, nothing with this guy. Let's see, Waurika. What we got going on here? All right, so we have some new development down here, which may be a sign of some better organization. It's funny, as I see this, and Weather Service just now puts out the same thing. So anyway, they're now focusing on Waurika because of this little increase in circulation that just started. Right over the town. So it's broad. It's not like it's a tornadic circulation, but it's one that does going to have a lot of spin in the atmosphere. So you're probably going to get a wall cloud out of it. So this little green area is our rotation marker. Now, green meaning it's on the light side. Now, if it was yellow, it'd be stronger. So in other words, really good indicative of very good, strong mesocyclone and a wall cloud, and maybe even funnel criteria. And then if it usually goes another color above that, like red or whatever, it's usually tornado type situation. So it's not quite a tornado type situation, but it is a good rotation area. All right, that's over the town of Waurika right now. So there's no tornado warning, just a severe thunderstorm warning. But we'll see what happens. If it intensifies, we may get a tornado warning out of it here soon. Probability of a tornado is only at 10% right now. And then it jumped to 27. Okay, so the last scan was 10. This new one that just came out was 27. So that algorithm is lagging behind a little bit from what we're seeing in real time with the velocity data. So to use this product the best, we've noticed, if you've been watching me long enough, we have figured out together, because this is all experimental stuff, by the way, that it's more of a ramping as an indicator of tornadic development. So if you want tornado genesis, you want this number to continually increase in larger steps, and that is your tip-off. All right, so we'll keep an eye down here in Waurika for potential tornadic development. If you want to, you go ahead and get in your shelters down here. I know local towns may even be signing the sirens just because, but that's something you can do just to be prudent, not necessarily required, but you do have a circulation center going over your town right now. Now, as always, probability of tornadoes went to 32%. It was at, 24? So we're probably getting tornado-typed criteria here. Let me see what my rotation tracker is showing. So, yep. See how this is now turned to a yellow? All right. So, if I was a weather service, I'd probably be issuing a tornado warning, or just about ready to, for this one. So, this is around, let's see. We were right on Highway 81 on the southeast side of Waurika by about a mile. Where it comes in, what road is this? Does this tell me? Does not. So it's going to be about a mile south of 70 and 81. So that is where our rotation area is located. It's increasing just a little bit, enough to where the algorithm is starting to harp on it a little bit better. So the next scan, if it comes in a little stronger, I would expect a warning might be possible. So right now it looks like on that scan, no increase yet. Looks like it's pretty staying the same. So we'll see what happens the next couple scans. But anyway, so that's the area to watch south of Waurika for a potential tornadic development down here in southwest Oklahoma. All right, let's go back up here to northwest again real quick. A lot of areas up here in blue, dark blue at that. So again, that means 70 to 80 mile per hour winds widespread in this region of Oklahoma. Nothing tornadic at this point, just strong straight line damaging winds. It's probably really loud. You're gonna hear some jet engine noises up here around Hardner because you've got your inflow coming into here and your outflow here. So you have this a mesocyclone basically in between that's mid-levels that's going to cause some noise and a lot of wind. All right, so we'll see what happens with that one. There's a little storm out ahead of it. This guy here, We'll see if anything happens with that one, if it can stay out ahead of the line. Sometimes the ones out ahead of the line has a chance to become tornadic if given the right ingredients. All right, let me check on the Alva. Which one's Alva? I think it was this one. Oh, there it is. Go back to Alva. Okay, Alva only had a wind speed so far of 60, it looks like. So Alva's right here on the map. Let me see what blew through there. Ah, that's why. Look. Okay, do you see where the strongest wind went? Remember, we're going by color scale. So the darker the blues, the stronger the wind. And I'm going to pause it right here. Okay, see all this dark blue? And then watch what happens. And then reforms on this side. Okay, and actually some of it skipped and went down here to the south a little bit. And there's that new formation over here. So Alva basically got spared. You guys were in between downbursts. Call yourself lucky. So the town of Alva was spared from these 70 to 80 mile per hour winds, and all you got was around 60, unless this thing updates to a higher number, and I don't see one. I still see 58. All right. It's about southern Kansas. Some loud storms, otherwise you guys are good. Anything else on this line? Nope. All right, let's go check southwest Oklahoma again. All right, so what has changed? All right, so what happened was our little rotation couplet that was getting better organized has diffused and split apart. So you have a really strong RFD signature here. In this direction. Our inbound is now separate in this direction, so they're no longer close to one another. So the cell has gone through a little bit more restructuring. All right, so we'll have to wait for this to reorganize again. Shouldn't take too long. Let's see, what's the probability of a tornado? It's at 47%. So it had ramped up on the number algorithms as it was getting real excited since these two were kind of joining forces, but algorithm does lag the actual real-time data. So the next update, it should, unless something happens in the data, it should start to either hold or drop a little. We're going to watch still right here. We're still going to watch for this area to tighten up, something in this zone to start to show another couplet forming. That's the area I'm going to look for. Because these wind speeds here inflow up around 80, and these around 43. And down here around 76. So about 80 to 80 shear component. Probability of a tornado updated to 0.224. Holding at 47, so it held. All right, so you guys up here in North Oklahoma again. Quick check. Still lots of little dark spots of blue, so anywhere from 60 to 70 to 80 miles per hour, just kind of hit and miss all in this wide, large area. So just just so you know, this was more what was expected moving through Oklahoma City Thursday evening. This was supposed to be the outcome. It did not occur. There was a lot of 50s, 40s, but it was not a lot of these 70s, 80s to near 90. So that was in the data on Thursday, and it did not materialize. It was in the data tonight, and it is materializing. Which, of course, makes things silly if you're a TV station market and you're going wall to wall for 40 to 50 mile per hour winds. And you're like, is this what it's come to? I mean, that's not even a severe thunderstorm wind. And that's what it has. You can't put the genie back in the bottle. So, but you're also kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place, because you could sign off and you can just sit there and watch the radar and wait. And then once you do get some winds reported, then you can get back on and cover it, right? Or once you start to see them ramp up to that level. But sometimes it happens really fast. And by then you're late to the party. So what do? You just sit there and watch it, thinking that, well, it's supposed to, it might, maybe. So if it does, we're going to be right here to point it out. Yeah, you can definitely do that. That won't happen in any other market in the country, but it'll happen in Oklahoma City. Because you got to blow out advertising dollars, revenue, when you do that. So you never want to take money out of your pocket if you don't have to. Anyway, so we'll see what happens with this data up here. Let me switch radars, see if anything else is going on that's hokey. Nope. It just seems like I'm getting a lot more of this darker blue in this area versus the lighter blue. So it's just probably a lot more wind in general terms. Now, I can tell you that the wind speed measurements that are coming in these dark blue areas that are around 80, 85 to 90, they are now only at 1,000 feet elevation because the storm's getting really close to the radar. So if I show you, the radar is right here. So it's shooting right here, which is only about 15 to 20 miles away. So the radar's going to sample these strong winds really well, which again means that most of these areas where you get these little darker blues up around 80 to 90 are going to be pretty close. It'll be 80 to 85 at the surface on the stronger parts. This one has to be running along, what road is this? Is it going to tell me? Tell me something good. Alright, that one's not going to tell me. Let's see if this will tell me. Alright, East Road 210. And North Road 2550, just west of there. And that's 2540. So 2540 and 210 is where the strongest winds are. So if you live out in this area of the state, you're like, I know where that's at. Well, that's where the strongest winds are. And this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 miles west of Cherokee, Highway 8. 84. Okay, so that's what's going on in northwest Oklahoma. It's no change. Status quo. Strong straight line wind event. Still going to watch other areas for a little sneak attack rotation. All right, let's go down south. See what this guy's doing in Jefferson County, southern Oklahoma, east of Ryan and Sugden and Waurika. So I still have a big elongated wind core. Probability of a tornado still holding 46%. So it peaked in the mid 40s and hasn't changed since. So we're sitting here watching it. Thanks. So I am seeing this little brightness, and some you can get a little QLCS baby tornado up here, and where you can get these little convergence areas that kind of get picked up on the radar. This one's around Amarita, north of there by about 4 miles on North Road 2640 and East Road 20. So that could be one of those little baby EF0 tornadoes. Southeast of Hazleton. So anyway, I noticed that the last couple of sweeps it's still there. So let me look at another view. Yep, still there. And it's actually, and this one got a little stronger. That's 49 miles per hour on that view. Yeah, we probably have a QLCS EF0 tornado. That's County Road East 20 and 2640. This is pretty much along Highway 58. And that's 4 miles north of Amarita. 5 roughly north of Byron. So little tiny baby tornado right here. I call it a baby tornado. You're like, why would you call it a baby tornado? Aren't you talking about a tornado? So yeah, I am. So let me tell you what a baby tornado does. This is a baby tornado. EF0, that's a baby tornado. Wind speeds of 65 to 85. Minor damage. Shingles blown off or parts of a roof peeled off. Damage to gutter, siding, branches, broken off trees, shallow trees uprooted, toppled. Here's an example where you have some tree tops. Some of them get decapitated. Here's an example of a barn where the corners peeled off. So very, very minimal damage. So luckily for us, most tornadoes are the baby ones, EF0s, or the weak ones, EF1. This is the bulk of our tornadoes across the entire country and including Oklahoma. So here's a mobile home flipped sideways. Once you get into the EF2s, you don't want to be in a mobile home because it'll look like this. But well-built structures will look like this. Not a big deal. So it's just when you get to the 4s and 5s is when things get out of control. Luckily, those are violent and they're very rare. Anyway, so that's why I call that a baby tornado. Okay, so back up here. Next scan, it has shifted north, and it's also weakening already. They usually don't last long, that's another thing. 1, 2, 3, 4 miles due west of Waldron. So that was our little QLCS tornado up there. So again, there'll be no warning for this one. It's a lot of times you don't get a warning on a QLCS tornado because A, sometimes they're hard to see on radar. B, they don't last very long. Not an excuse. It's just it is what it is. Some of them are caught, some of them aren't. It's just how prudent are you, and are you willing to warn on a weak circulation, right? Because that's fairly weak. Barely meets the criteria. So sometimes they're warned on, sometimes they're not. And sometimes when it looks like we've had a busy tornado year, it can be a bunch of these baby QLCS tornadoes counted. And they're not supercell created tornadoes. So you thinking, really? We had a lot of supercell storms? Nope. We had a lot of little baby lines like this with little tiny micro circulations in them that got warned on. Is what it is. All right, so again, this whole line just hanging out with the wind. It's just a big windy, loud event up here in northern Oklahoma. Let's see, this one near Cleo Springs had a wind gust of 76 miles per hour. And looks like power flashes noted on the north side of town. So when you see power flashes, typically when a storm chaser reports that, when they're viewing at night, they say, oh wow, there was a transformer that blew, or lines sparked or arced, or so those are the power flashes they're talking about. A lot of times they're referring to tornadoes, but in some cases it can be straight line winds like this one. So when you see power flash, it just means there was a strong wind event at that localized area. that caused that phenomenon to happen. All right, the little QLCS up here is gone, and we'll see if anything else forms in its wake. Let's go back down to southwestern or southern Oklahoma. Probability of a tornado is down at 38%, so it's dropped. And the circulation is still there, but it's a little more broad and not as strong. Okay, so you guys in Ardmore, that is the storm heading toward you. The strongest part will probably pass just to your south, between you and Marietta. It's kind of moving in an east to southeast fashion. Let's take a look. Yeah, it's east with a slight southeast drift, and the northern fringe continues to weaken. Yeah, the northern fringe isn't nearly as strong. Alright, so again, we'll watch this one closely as it comes in closer to you for anything tornadic. Same idea, same principle with this. Again, it would be a deal. This is usually how it works in the world of TV. You would do in commercial breaks like the funny thing is, here's the trick. It was on national commercial breaks, not a local commercial break. It was a national. Why do you say national? Well, because the local paying you local money. The national is a national ad buy, and they're not going to know if you cover their commercials or not. So it's a little sneaky loophole way of doing a quick weather update with about a 30 to 45 second window, or maybe a minute window, of a national spot that you don't lose any money on. So why not cover it up? So in the past, you would see a weather person get online or on the air. They'd say, hey, we got a storm down here in Jefferson County. We're watching it. Pockets of wind and hail within this. There's no tornadoes yet, but there's some weak circulation, blah, blah, blah. We're going to sit here and watch it, okay? That'd be the end of it. And then they just kind of watch it, and you may not see them again for a while, or all of a sudden the next commercial break, which will be 10 minutes later, same idea. And then what happens is at that point, if it then becomes tornadic during that 10-minute window where the program is back on, the show that you're watching is on, and all of a sudden now it's producing a tornado, well then the show or whatever you're watching is now cut into, and then it's going to be wall-to-wall coverage of that tornado until it's gone. So either until the warning expires or the circulation is completely gone, not coming back. So that's how that normally works in that environment. Lately, Oklahoma City has gone so nuts, so wild, so crazy that they just blow it all out all the time. And so now you're conditioned to watch the whole thing. Is that the right way of doing it? Nobody else does it that way, so I don't know. You tell me. But anyway, so that's what's happened. Why you watching all three stations stay on wall to wall right now, when in the past each one is individually just be quick updates of the wind during a 35 to 45 or 1 minute update. So that's how it used to work. And that was pretty aggressive, honestly. And it did the job. You got the notice out, the warning out. You're not sitting there having to hold the radar hand, minute by minute update. You said, look, these are the people in the path. This is the time of arrival. This is what you can expect. And I'll see you in 10 minutes to get you another update. That's usually how it worked. When I was doing it back then, that's how it worked for us. But now, there's a raindrop. Guess what? Wall to wall, baby. We gotta track that raindrop. It's just different. So now for internet basis, which eventually the TV that you watch now is going to be gone. Everything is internet driven, so including this. This is basically your new television. So the older folks have a tough time understanding that. The younger ones get it right out of the bat because they grew up with the internet right here on their phone, which is now their TV. So they don't have that mental disconnect of old school versus new school. But that's the new way of doing it. So there may be a time where the TV stations don't even bother cutting it at all anymore because it's always going to be online 24/7. Like what I'm doing right now, I'm doing online 24/7. So for me, my vantage point is, do I sit here and stay with it? Watching these things for the same idea. It looks like it might produce a tornado if things can get a little bit better organized. Or do I sign off and then sign back on, 10, 20, 30 minutes later when things change? And I go back and forth within that with myself because I got some other things I could be doing, right? But at the same time, I'm kind of babysitting. We call it babysitting. You're kind of watching the radar still just to see, so you don't want to miss it, right? So that's the other thing kind of behind the scenes. So that's another way to look at it that's on my end of things. And typically, I only cover tornadoes. I don't really cover standard, normal thunderstorms in Oklahoma. We get those all the time. So as long as you're smart about them and you're outside playing in it, it's usually not that big of a deal. The only exceptions would be the big magnitude events where you have a very strong damaging wind event or a ridiculously large hail event. Obviously, those are a little bit different. So I'll spend more time with that. So let's see here. Remember our QLCS tornado debate up here in northern Oklahoma? I want to show you how this works. Remember how I told you the Weather Service let this go and they didn't issue up here for Norman? Now watch. See that little brightness spot? And I said, okay, we got a tornado here. And now notice how it went up north. Well, it went into Kansas domain, probably. Let me see. Is it still? Yeah, it's in Wichita. So it's in Kansas now. In Harper County, coming to Anthony. And the Weather Service up there says, you know what? We'll take that QLCS tornado and we're going to go ahead and issue on it. Now, in reality, right here was a pretty good radar signature for it. And right here, let me see here. A very weak one. This probably been the last time that I would have been confident. And this scan and this scan, I've been like, it's starting to weaken. So the warning would have been valid for right here to here, which is when the warning was actually issued, to about here and really not so much there. But that's where we currently are. So this would be the leftover circulation for that. But they went ahead and issued the tornado warning. So if you live up here, and you notice, let's see here, Harper County, South Central Kansas, until 10:30. Storm capable of producing a tornado located 9 miles north of Emerita or 9 miles east of Hazleton, moving northeast at 45. Anthony around 9:55 is when that storm will arrive. Okay, so that is an example of a QLCS tornado which can be warned by one National Weather Service office and not warned by the other. Either way, it's going to be very, very weak, as I said, and not really do much in the way of damage. So if it's missed, it's not so much of a issue, right? So it's kind of one you can get away with not warning on should one happen at that lowest level. Okay, so anyway, so that was that one, which is now moving to Kansas. We watch the rest of these, this line for little indentions that may form another QLCS. So, for example, here's Ringwood. See the little bright colors that showed up here on the map? And you start to go, okay, we're getting that situation, and then look how they fall apart. So the minute you may think you're going to issue a tornado warning, because, hey, you starting to ramp into that direction, then it's gone. So they're very difficult to deal with. It's a headache for forecasters and the warning coordination meteorologists. So I'm just telling you behind the scenes. We do at Team Tuttle Realty, so I'm a realtor, by the way. So if you need a house, you're going to buy one, you need to sell the one you're in, let me know. So I've been a realtor now for a little over a year. So I teamed up my wife and we created Team Tuttle Realty. Anyway, she's been there for like 12 years. So she relocated from Canada, so she had to start all over. Now, could you imagine building your business for 12 years and then having to walk away and have nothing and got to redo it all over again? So I was like, I got you, honey. Let me help you out. So anyway, so I helped her. We got all that back and going again. But the point is, we do these, like on Saturday today, we had Robert Baxter Electric on there. We do the Insider interview series. We do a live interview with our preferred partners. And so for electrical work, we said, all right, I want to know the ins and outs, right, on the inside industry stuff. So you talk to an expert and you say, tell us the skinny. I want to know, the details behind the curtain. Tell us the red flags and what to watch for, and the good and the bad. So that's the Insider interview series. So I'm kind of like that in weather as well. I give you the inside scoop as to what really transpires, both on the operational meteorology side and how that process works, but also on the TV side, because I did that for 12 years. And so now I'm on the government side. So I've been on both sides of it. It's just a different approach for each one. Anyway, so still watching the storm down here. Winds are still, pockets of it are pretty strong. There's still nothing quite organized to say anything tornadic. We're just watching it. So the storm is really just a normal thunderstorm at this point. We'll see. The area it's going into has a northeast wind. That's not favorable for tornadic development. The winds down here, South Red River, are southeast. So honestly, with this configuration, I would have to say any threat for a tornado it's going to have to occur. The best option is on the tail end of it as it runs right along the river. In other words, pretty much out of Oklahoma, kind of just on the other side. That right now is the way it looks, based off the surface observations. So really, that puts the big show up here in northwest Oklahoma again. So let's see here. Let's do some wind check. So the radar, again, the winds went right through the radar. So remember, I have the screen split, right? So on the right, you have V. On the left, you have Z. So Z stands for reflectivity, a measuring unit of power. The right's for velocity, it means wind speeds. So you have, as a radar site here, you have winds blowing toward a radar, which is going to be green. Oh, baby. You good? Hold that thought. Okay. You miss me? Sorry, I wasn't going to be able to talk to you with this licking all over my ankles and feet. So, okay. You missed your daddy, huh? So this is Penelope. So Penelope's about 10 months. Hey, baby. I'm doing some tornado coverage. You're kind of interrupting that. All right. All right. You good? Get your licks in? All right. She weighs two something pounds. All right. Go on there and make me some babies. Yeah, go get with Larry. So, anyway, she's cute when she wants to be. She's a turd when she doesn't. She's mean, man. She's bossy. She just doesn't let Larry be Larry. It's terrible. And Larry's so calm and laid back. She just corrals him. It's just so weird to watch. Anyway, all right. So then, so the green and blue here is the winds blowing toward the radar. The red is the winds blowing away from the radar. So in this case, the wind's going left to right, so west to east. So the radar got hit by the line, which is now in this fashion, right? So as it blew through, back it up here. So here comes the big wind, and it's approaching the radar right here, and then boom, it's going through. Now you notice there's no data here. This is called a cone of silence. So there's no transmission of data within this range of the radar due to mechanical or electronic limitations of the equipment. So that's why you're never going to have data right at the radar point, because you have to focus in the beam at a certain distance, and there's other components in a radar system that require a minimum distance where you have nothing to measure so that you can measure in a certain distance away. All right, anyway, so these numbers in the blue here look up around 67 to 70. All right, so there was a lot of 70s. And this is, of course, right at the surface. So this particular number's up here. Let's see, 73. I've got spots here, 67, 81 in the darkest blue. All right, now, of course, the wind is blowing through. So the other side we can measure. Let's see, 61, 67. These little bright areas I'm looking at. You can't see the numbers on this output, but I can see them at the bottom. 65. So, okay. So the point being is we can tell, we don't have to infer, how much we're losing from 3,000 feet to 2,000 feet to 1,000 feet to the surface. When it gets directly hit like that, well, we've got right here at the ground level at literally 100 to 400 feet off the ground in between. And we get the values that are still up around 60 to 70 plus in most areas. And then you have these little hot pink zones, and those little oranges thrown in, that's 73 to 75 mile per hour winds. So there you go. So that just kind of shows you what happened on this part of the line as it rolled through the spot of the state. Let's see. Look at all these oranges. It's a little brighter up here. So that's 79 miles per hour. So some good winds up around 80. That's rolling through Nash. I'm coming up on Pond Creek, Medford, and Waukeeta. Not quite as strong as this little spot up here on the north side of Nash, but that's the strongest winds. All right, then we can look for anything else. So, oh, by the way, so the tornado warning that we had, remember up here I told you it was, let's go back. There it is. Okay, remember that little circulation? Can you spot it? Let's see. This guy right here. Remember that one? Okay, so watch, it goes up here. And I said, really, I would probably want to let it go. And you see what happened to the warning? It was dropped. It expired. And the circulation is long gone. So that's what I'm saying. They can issue the warning, but by the time they issue it, you might get a couple of radar scans out of it, which is basically a 1 to 4 minute window, 5 minute maybe, in this pattern, and that's it. It's gone. Now, typically tornadoes, they're short-lived phenomenon anyway, but these are really difficult to catch. Okay, so anyway, anything else on this line? I don't see anything. So I think what I'm going to do, we're going to do one big last look here at these two zones, and I think I may end up signing off for the other reasons I told you before. Okay, yeah, this just not doing anything of importance down here. I mean, there's still some wind embedded within it. Lawn furniture or trash cans moved around. But that's about it. I certainly is not a wall-to-wall weather situation for this storm, and even from up here, occasional heads up that you got 70 to 80 mile per hour winds is good enough. Let me see, I think let's go do this. Let me see if they ever started this one. They did not. All right, new run available. Nope, it ain't available. Now, the storms that are around the after midnight to 2 to 3 o'clock in the morning, they're not nearly as strong, just so you know. They're going to be loud, I'm sure, some lightning with them, but they will not have the winds that we have with this first round that's moving through before midnight. So heads up, because I won't be covered and I'll be sleeping right through them like a baby. Jody, of course, will be probably waking. She doesn't like the lightning, the thunder. She wakes up screaming. What's that? Just like, go back to bed. Just lightning. Let's see. Just to show you here another output for Nash. See, up around 80. 86, 83 miles per hour. Here's a little spot up here, 88. Did I see an 88? 88. 91. And that is at 500 feet elevation. This one is at 270 feet. So really, if it's about 500 feet or less, it's pretty close what you're going to get at the surface. It's not going to be much different. So anyway, still some good winds up here in northern Oklahoma. And these happen to be on East Road 230, which parallels 64. So that's Highway 64, which runs out of Nash. There's a little batch up here, East Road 1020 off of 132. And there's 2810. So there's Highway 81 here shortly with this little batch of wind. So Palm Creek and Jefferson, you guys are next. You see this little indention right here? You may end up eventually getting another QLCS type tornado up there. Let me see. Yeah, look at that little bitty guy right there. You might end up getting one. That would be north of Waukeeta, coming up along the border state line. We can wait just one more second. Next update and see if that strengthens in colors. Let's see. Wind-wise, here's another little strong little pocket down here. South of Ames, up around 65. That's east of Okeen on Highway 51, coming into Hennessy. Now, you see this. Let me get rid of that one. Again, this is Oklahoma County, Canadian County, right? And you see this line of storms. The tail end of it's like this, and it is moving this direction. So that means that the tail end of it is going to come through here. So we don't get the biggest, strongest winds like a big line. We get these little pockets of wind that may come in to greet us as we approach the 11 to midnight hour. So 11 o'clock to midnight. Okay, so the Weather Service just put out a statement, and it said the QLCS-ish feature near Waukeeta, if this feature continues, we may need to pull the trigger on a new warning. So now you know the inside scoop of how the warning process works. So you watch the radar, you look for these little signatures, and you watch them for a couple of scans and see if they're going to increase or not. And then you're going to pull the tornado warning. Now, again, this is different, right? So I've already pointed out to you and said, yeah, this would be where a tornado would be located. If one's developing at this point, we'll have to see for the next scan. It's possible one could form in between scans and just last for seconds, and then that would be missed. And so if you're trying to put out a warning, you may have actually already missed the only one and only time it actually touched down. But it would be on the orders, like we said, of an E of 0 and probably only 30 yards wide. You know, I mean tiny, like size of a house. And that's it. So in this case, we go back. Let's go back 2 scans. Will it let me? I think I have to play it forward. Let's see. There we go. Okay. So that one didn't look all that great. Let's go to this one. You see, so it's just teeny little bitty deal, and it's not that impressive, not that great yet. As a matter of fact, it never really did get anything better than maybe there. So in that case, you just go, okay, well, I'm not going to warn on it, because look, what was left is gone. So in this case, the Weather Service passes and goes, all right, we won't warn on that one. And that's a QLCS tornado. And so if you look at the reflectivity, you have this nice little mini hook. You always have like a little arm, it's like a little hand that just comes out like this, right? So that's what it looks like on a QLCS tornado. So this would be your enhancement feature. And a lot of times that's all you get. And you go, I got to warn on that. You know, is that really going to be a tornado? And see, look how it curled up here at the end. Boom. All right. Anyway, so that feature, what's left of it, East Road 50 and give me a cross street, 2910. So that's probably 2900. Yeah, 2900, and that's 1, 2, 3, 4 miles northeast of Waukeeta. So just about into Kansas, moving toward Kansas. Anyways, that's a potential QLCS tornado where sometimes it gets warned on, sometimes it doesn't, depending on how the data looks at any given time. Let me look at this other one here. That's all she wrote. All right, so that one didn't materialize. What's interesting enough on the velocity side, you don't really have much to go on. I mean, you can tell that there's this couplet in here, but what you don't understand is these wind speeds right here. It's 13 miles per hour and 24 miles per hour there. I mean, so it's 50 mile per hour winds. It just, I mean, like I'm saying, it's the weakest of all weak tornadoes in this case. But the little reflectivity structure would indicate that at some point it did wrap up to where you likely did get a really small one. Whether or not it's still there or not is debatable, but you at least had enough of the signature there on radar to indicate, we did have something for a brief second. Anyway, that's kind of the lifespan or life cycle of a QLCS, which stands for Quasi-Linear Convective System Tornado, aka a squall line tornado. What's a squall line? Squall line is this right here. It's this big, long line, convective line of storms that moves in one direction, has pockets of wind and hail, and then on the leading edge, you get a little baby spin up of motion that gets carried in an updraft just long enough to spin around with a little vorticity or spin in the atmosphere and can produce what is technically considered a violently rotating column of air, aka a tornado. So if you look here, we even have this little donut feature or a circle feature. And it's over, you guessed it, riverbed. There's a little bush. So anyway, that's how that works. And there was no warning issued on that. Now there could have been, like I mentioned earlier, but see what I'm saying? It's kind of like, do you not? You hem and haw and then it's already over. But that's how that goes. Okay. Let's see, a new scan just came in. Still no different. All right. Anyway, that's that. Okay, so I'm gonna look at this last one in the south, and then I think I'm gonna call this. I'll be around here this evening, so it looks like something is just out of control as it comes in the metro, like 11 to 12, and it's like a huge line of damaging winds, which I do not foresee. The way the structure is, it's just not going to happen. So it's going to get loud around here, though, and you will have some thunderstorms that move through. But I do not expect any. I hate to say that. I don't want to say that. I don't want to jinx it. So the tornado threat, let's just put it this way, is pretty low. But you're still going to have pockets of damaging wind up around 70 plus miles per hour in the stronger areas of these thunderstorms. The hail sizes haven't really been that big of an issue this evening. I think most of these I've seen around 1 inch to 1.5 inches. So it's kind of under golf ball size. So that's something there. And just, I think that's all I'm going to say. All right, so listen, I'm going to get out of here, but appreciate you guys watching the coverage here for the last couple of hours just to kind of see what's going to happen. And you can enjoy the rest of your weekend. So Sunday, when you get up in the morning, depending on how early you get up, it should be dry across the rest of the state. These storms will be through overnight and then exiting the state in the morning out far east, southeast Oklahoma. So it should be able to manage a pretty good weekend out of it all with just this little window here during the evening and overnight for the rainfall. Hope we get some decent rain here in Oklahoma City. Could always use more. Anytime you head into the summer months around here, you always want the rain going in. So, plus, I need my garden to get wet so Jody doesn't yell at me for not watering today. Anyway. All right. Thanks again for your comments and your likes and your shares. And using my weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free, Apple, Google Play. You can use that tonight if you like. Keep tabs on the radar. All right, everybody, be safe. Talk soon. Take care.